Afternoon, we'll do Chapter 12, Lecture A, The Age of Reform. Normal things as we start each lecture. Big key takeaways from this section. Questions that need to be answered. What were the major movements and goals of antebellum reform? What were the different varieties of abolitionism? How did abolitionist challenge arise to racial equality and free speech? And what were the diverse sources of antebellum women's rights movement and its significance? Introduction. Few threw themselves in the crusade against slavery like Abby Kelly. First lecture outside of Lynn, where she lived with baptism of fire. People, obviously, if you go out and start speaking a lot of controversial topics, people are going to spit it right back to you. They would be like if you put something on Facebook and someone spit it back, or the group of people spitted something back at you. Rumors swirled she was in favor of amalgamation, or sex between the races, basically a biracial marriage, which today very commonplace, but in this era, this was viewed as taboo, not acceptable. People stormed the hall in Philadelphia and burned it to the ground where she was lecturing. For two decades, she will travel through the North speaking. Active pacifist as well, she was not someone who advocated war. Wife of ardent abolitionist Stephen S. Foster. And then where she returned to speaking shortly after giving birth, she stated, I have, don't, if for the sake of the mothers whose babies are sold away for them, the most precious legacy I can leave my child is a free country. So, in short, Abby Kelly was ardent abolitionist, and this is going to be a new group that will emerge in this period from the 1830s to 1850s of taking a strong stand against slavery. That being said, just because they're anti-slavery does not mean they were for equality across everything. Next slide. The Reform Impulse 1. Emerson in 1841 believed the hope of reform was highest if it had ever been. Reformer movements were gaining strength. Utopian communities. About 100 reformed communities were established in the decades before the Civil War. Historians called them utopia after Thomas More's 16th century novel Utopia, Outline of a Perfect Society. Religious conviction want to counteract the social norm. Utopian communities, socialism, and communism enter political terms. Basically what you're looking at, these utopian communities, is a perfect society in which everything is roses, flowers, and peace, happiness, and love. The reality is utopian societies are not sustainable because there's going to be divisions and problems that will naturally come up. One group, the first group we'll talk about, is the Shakers. Religious communities attract those who sought to find a retreat from society permeated by sin, meaning society is full of sin. The most successful of these utopians was the Shakers. God, they believed, was a dual personality, both male and female, thus the sexes were equal, and they completely abandoned traditional family life. Men and women lived in separate dorms and increased their numbers by attracting converts and adopting children. Among the first to market vegetable and flower seeds and herbal medicines, and to breed cattle for profit. Good furniture as well. The only problem with the Shakers is as they practice no sex. No sex equals no children, thus they could not keep their numbers up. And honestly, if you're going to preach that for a long time, you're probably going to lose followers, not attract more. Let's just be honest about that. Just being human. Humans do not do well in those environments. Next slide. Another group is going to be at Oneida, or Oneida. Founded by John Humphrey Noyes in upstate New York in 1848, formed a small community in Putney, Vermont. Dictatorial environment, men could have sex with any woman who could say yes or no. And this will continue to 1881. This is basically almost, it's a male-dominant society in which women had some rights, but it's all dictatorial, and it's really, you could be with anyone you wanted. So this is the opposite of the Shakers. You can see here the perfect communities are riddled with a lot of issues. Worldly communities, religious communities last much longer. This one's going to be founded by Robert Owen. New Lanark, Scotland, became the largest cotton manufacturer in the world. Practiced communitarianism. In 1824, purchased Harmony Community in Indiana. Did not last long, though. Promoted women's rights and equal distribution of property. But it ain't going to last too long as well. Now, Reform Impulse 3. Most Americans say property as the key to economic success or independence, and marriage was as social order. Few were likely to join anything that made them surrender both. Born out of the Second Great Awakening, revivals popularized the outlook known as perfectionism. It saw both individuals and society at large as capable of infinite improvements. Thus, you're going to have, so you have these perfect societies that try to emerge utopian. Obviously, they don't work very well, honestly. But this idea with the revivals and the Second Great Awakening, you have the temperance movement, the idea of improving self and doing away of sin in the society. So temperance movement, doing away with drugs and alcohol, is going to become a big movement. It's going to stay around for a very, very long time. In fact, it'll help get the 18th Amendment passed. Criticism of war became outright pacifism. North's emerging middle-class culture became a badge of respectability in which people took control of their lives. Now, critics and reform. Impulse 4. Many saw reform impulse as an attack on their own freedom. If you're going to start changing things, you're really attacking my freedoms. Drinking was a prominent feature of festive celebrations, and taverns were places for meetings. Obviously, people drank at meetings and gatherings. So people at the temperance movement are going to say, hey, this is an attack on my way of life and my choices. Catholics proved hostile to the reform changes, viewed sin as an inescapable burden of individuals in society. Evil could not be banished from the earth. You're never going to get rid of evil, and evil is not inherently in everything action you do. It places emphasis on family and church. You should go to church, support your family, and be of your family, but you're never going to remove everything and make it perfect. Reformers in freedom had to reconcile the desire to create a moral order with their quest to enhance personal freedom. Self-fulfillment came through self-discipline. We're going to discipline our bodies through just how we acted and did stuff. Those in the East feared those in the West, lacked self-control, and gave into vice. So those on the East Coast are going to be the frontiersmen or the Westerners. It's like, hey, they give into vice. They're kind of crazy, and they don't adhere to things very effectively. Now, the invention of the asylum. This could lead to Reform Impulse 5. The invention of the asylum. This is going to be, during this period, a program of building jails, poorhouses, and asylums and orphanages attempt to remove from society. What you're going to see here is they're trying to remove the undesirables from society, whether it be someone that's mentally crazy, someone that's a drunk causing problems, or unwanted. The idea is you get them away from normal society, it will improve society. Very, very narrow-minded and not very good. But obviously, the asylum will lead to mental institutions and other things that are, dark moments in history. Now, the common school. Tax-supported state school systems to open all children will start to emerge in this period. 19th century, most educated in local schools, private academies, or charity schools. Horace Mann, a Massachusetts lawyer, key reformer, is going to advocate making a common school. Promoted universal public education and outpaced the South and the fear, but mostly due to the fear of liberate or educate the blacks. So essentially, the North is going to start to make tax-sponsored schools. It's going to be slow. It's going to be mostly upper class initially, but will grow obviously into the 20th century as we start to move from rural communities to more commonplace education. That being said, the South is going to lag behind, and they're still going to focus on their traditional, the wife promoting the children's education instead of public schools. There also fear in the South of reforming education of the African Americans understanding more. Now, this first part, so we obviously know we started with introduction about abolitionists of Abercrombie, but you're going to see a reform movement spirit that's going to be formed, and it's going to start really with religion, the way of life, and how to live better in our society and to remove undesirables. That, ironically enough, is going to help give birth to the concept of removing slavery. This is where we're going to conclude today. Have a great day.